All right, so not this week, today, at 10 o'clock, they were given a project to visualize Transport for London bike share data. So there's 50 million records in the data set, and they had 4 hours. So let's see what they got up to. First to present is 80.
Thanks for the applause in advance. Most generous.
Sorry.
So I wanted to use the TfL data to try and enhance something that kind of plays on my mind quite a lot, and that is air quality in London, which is routinely terrible. So we habitually exceed all the recommended air quality targets.
In January for the year.
Yeah. So our yearly targets exceeded by January. So I started off with just supplementing what we've had with providing some context for the impact of poor air quality in London. So you have about 10,000 deaths which are attributable every year to poor air quality in London. We focus in on some vulnerable groups. For children are exposed to 30% more air pollution than adults generally. There's also, I'm not sure if you saw it in the news, a report that says high levels of air pollution outside are also filtering through to classrooms. So this is part of the reason why children are more exposed, because we have less, once poor air quality is in the classroom, there's less airflow to disperse it. I also wanted to set some context about what's driving that. So it's partly poor air quality is being driven by, little pun there, being driven by vehicle use in London. So personal vehicle use, but also kind of freight and things. Why I specifically looked at personal vehicle use because we can tie this up with uptake of bike journeys. So for the average car journey in London, it's about 2.5 kilometers. Exactly. So it's not far. We compare this to the average bike journey for specifically from the higher bikes from TfL. The distance is about the same. So there can be an argument that, oh, but the journey's too far to cycle, because it isn't. And actually, most people are cycling about that distance anyway as their routine. The second piece of context for that actually came from some data from the Makeover Monday a few weeks ago, is that on average, Londoners spend about 20 minutes every single day stuck in traffic if they're commuting by car. And we compare that to some of the data that came in from TfL. The average cyclist on the hire bike spends that time to cover their entire journey. So the amount of dead time that a commuter has, you could be covering the average journey. So you could be there already. So those are my kind of compelling background bits of information. And then just move on and say, well, if those things are all the case, why don't we just get on a bike and ride? One of the arguments, if you're not riding, might be that you don't want to, the journey's too far, we know it's not, it takes too long, we know it's not, or maybe there isn't a bike that's close to you. So you just create a map to figure out where the Santander cycles are in your area. So we plotted them all across the map. I apologize for not improving my tooltip there before the end. Let's just pretend that looks
pretty
well constructed. So you can start by kind of looking at all the locations of the cycles on the map, but you can then type in some areas to figure out, if you want to go somewhere, is there a bike there that you can finish your journey? Or if you want to start somewhere, is there a bike there that you can start and maybe walk to finish? So, okay.
No idea if there's any there or not.
Should be.
Yeah.
There we go. So these are all the bikes that are in and around the Vauxhall area, and it's selecting out on this station name tag. So
anything that has Vauxhall in it, right?
Yeah, that kind of wild card element. So hopefully we're highlighting to people that within reason, there's no real prohibitive factor for cycling. There are lots and lots of good reasons why we can be doing it, lots of reasons why we should be doing it, and also very simple practical reasons why we can do it.
Good job. Well done. All right.
Do you want to do any feedback and questions now, Andy?
Yeah, we can. Yep.
And I think the only thing for that, I really like it. I like the call to action. It's a subject that's obviously close to my heart and most importantly my lungs as well.
Yeah.
The use of the car image and the bike image, I think you would be better with centralising that, and then your fact either side of it. Because I think that way you can make that image a bit more hard hitting, or just change the spacing a little bit overall.
Yeah, as in.
Because you use the same image twice, it's just like, so why are you using it there, and there didn't seem to be separate reasons for it. It's almost like, this is the pros and this is the cons. My head went in different places with it, where it's just like, you're using the same image, you could have just, almost like the timeline we got earlier this week, of just kind of have just go either side of it instead, and create a different kind of vibe and feel. But yeah, nice to work.
I assume you used a parameter for the Vauxhall for the name. Is that a parameter you used?
Yeah.
And then use the highlighting? I think it'd be really cool to have a second one that says where they want to go. Because you can put the start and the end, and then you can, as a separate color, and then you can see how far it is.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
And that then gets into the loveliness of how many other people have taken this journey in the last 3 months. Because I think it's weird for people to get on the bikes when they feel like they're one of 10 or one of 100 people who have ever done it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you see that actually there's been about 100 people per day who do exactly that journey,
Yeah.
it kind of feels like a little bit more normal and regular, and you're not going to be out there alone. So.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you would be the only person on the road.
So we used to have a problem at Waterloo where there were never any bikes. Because there's a ton of bike stations there, but there's so many people going through Waterloo that they take all the bikes. And so that's why that number of docks is in there for each station, so you could look at bike availability based on the time of day. Did anybody look at that? No? Okay. Should have asked them what they think but anyway, so they ended up doing that kind of analysis and figuring out that they needed to start trucking in more bikes throughout the day, or in the morning, really. Anyway, okay. Alexander? All right. Just put it up there on the computer so it's closer to the speaker. All right. And there's a slight delay in the on the screen. So. Cool. Sorry. There we go.
All right. So I want to welcome you to the TFL Bikes Tell-All. So the story of the most used and abused bikes in London. And as you can see, we have on the top the most travel, most trips, and the most time. And these don't line up. So we have, I've also named them just for convenience, because I don't want to say like 88, 75. So like the most traveled is Bob, and then the most trips is Bill, and the most time is Jane. And as you can see, even though Bob travels the most, he doesn't get the most trips. And he certainly doesn't get the most time. And most trips is Bill, but he doesn't get the most time and doesn't get the most travel. So this is kind of an interesting how it looks, because I would have assumed that if you have the most trip, you probably have the most travel, or like reverse. And certainly, I thought it was very interesting that there isn't, you can see like there isn't such a big difference between
so is it coincidence that Bob is in all three categories, or is that did you create a group?
That was on purpose.
Okay, so you kind of created a group or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I wanted to look at the top three plus like these three bikes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you see that there are some numbers in there as well, and those are kind of just in the top three.
Okay.
So I wanted to focus on the top three and then these three in addition, if they weren't in the top three already. And so that's kind of the first thing that I thought was quite interesting is that, yeah, you have different bike for most traveled, most trips and most time. And then also what I found super interesting is that when you look at the duration in hours, you find that Jane, which has by far the most time, has like a ton of outliers. And this one particularly interesting is that it took 162 hours to travel 2.3 miles.
They must have kept it overnight or something.
Yeah.
That's like days.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like several days.
I took it home.
Right.
They must have taken it home.
It must have like taken it home and having a backyard for like 3 months.
When it's in there like a pay by the month scheme or something.
No, you still have to drop the bikes back a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of like.
What about that one for Bill? He's got a pretty big outline.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like even worse. It's like 178 hours for like 1 mile.
Not even far.
Maybe you just lost that.
Yeah. And so you have, so if you take out all the outliers, they don't really have, they kind of match. But
So is every trip they've taken then, right?
yes.
Okay.
So every trip.
So most of them are down near the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. And so here you have, the interesting thing from this is that you can see that a Jane is kind of the most abused bike because it has like so many players where people are just like taking a bike for ages, short distances. It's kind of weird. Like I don't know if they just like looking at it or something. It's kind of interesting. And then I with Andy's help managed to do the routes. And I think what's interesting about the routes, if we take for example Bill has 5,568 routes in total, but the top route only got 4 people going it.
Huh.
And so there's really, really a lot of routes that people are going. And so the top 3 routes is actually this 4, 3, and 1. And so that's kind of gives you a perspective of if there are more than 5,000 routes.
Wow.
And the top one is 4, and then 3, and then 1. How many like different routes people are taking? And this is also the case with all the others. So like 9, 7, and 1.
I would have expected it to be significantly higher.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fascinating. But that's kind of
Cool.
the story.
Well, good job.
Nice.
Thank you.
So there's a couple small things I would do here,
Yep.
Alexander. I would probably make the blues that you have on the screen match the blue of the TFL.
Right.
You can use like the color picker to do that. The other thing is, so it's hard to tell kind of the volume of dots down here. So I would either add some transparency to it or reduce the transparency so that you can see the clusters better. Or I know we haven't covered it, but there's a jittering technique where you can make them spread out.
Okay.
And then you can see the concentrations a bit better. But because it's hard, most of them are probably down near 0.
Right.
But it's kind of hard to tell from this view. It almost, because you've got single dots out here, it almost looks like, well, are those just single dots, even though we know they're not. But,
I'd also be tempted to set that to days, so duration in days rather than hours.
Right.
Because straight away you think it's going to be we're talking about minutes or hours for bike use, but suddenly we're talking about days. So the 162 thing, everyone goes into their head, right? How many 162 divided by 24? And you kind of lost that impact of this is an X day grind slash bike's being borrowed for. Right, that's the message you're trying to use there. So it can handle that better too.
Yeah.
Also, if you haven't used the TFL bikes, it'd be fun just to have one of the bike pictures and then actually showing how you identify the bikes on the back of the frame. So then, because people might want to look out for or Jane, you can actually see if they ever swap them.
I noticed yesterday when I was cycling in, I made a mental note of the number of the bike that was next to me at the traffic light, but then I forgot it. I was curious to see how many routes that bike had taken.
Right.
I should have taken a picture of it.
Yeah.
Right, good job, well done. Who's number 3? Niels? Oh wait, we have a question on here. Is there a highlight action? No.
Do I have to do it?
Yeah, I need to. Well, can you just take it, or do I need to give it to you?
Let's see.
I don't even see you in here.
I am in.
Weird. I don't see you in the list. Are you able to just take it? No, you can't. Interesting. Okay.
Can I maybe just rejoin?
Yeah, why don't you try that? Try getting out and back in.
I don't know if that was a cough or a sneeze.
There we go. I see it now.
All right.
I don't know.
That's weird.
Okay. Now I got it.
You have 4 hours. That's not good for the lab. This lab either.
Okay, yeah, the topic I'm presenting today is a little bit of a sad one because I'm focusing on the lonely bike station in London. It is Grand Road Central in Clapham, and it's actually the bike station with the fewest bikes rented per station. So, as you can see on the map and here on the right side, you will see the respective dots for bikes rented per station. And the red dot is highlighted, and it says, yeah, it is indeed the Grand Road Central Station.
Still being used 863 times.
Still, but it's still pretty lonely compared to 95,000, right?
So that must be Bill? Yeah.
Yeah.
What was Bill's number?
It was.
It's by station, right? So
Oh, it's by station.
It's by station,
right,
so you
right.
can't
Yeah,
really
his
tell.
was by bike. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, so this is why.
is what you saw.
So this is why I made it actually the center of attention in my presentation. So like all the information I've gathered here is about this one station. So you can tell that here, for example, you have the option to switch between different measures, maybe the distance traveled in miles or the duration which people travel from.
So it's right in the middle in distance.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
because it's the average, right? It's not the sum.
No, but I mean it's in the middle of all of the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one marked in red. Yeah. And yeah, then I wanted to see where do people travel from this one station. This is in the next chart, so you can see the most frequent trip actually from the station from Grand Road Central is to Charing Cross Hospital. So this trip has been done.
Can you highlight that where Charing Cross Hospital is?
I can't because these are start stations and one underneath are end stations.
Right, gotcha.
So that wouldn't be possible. Yeah, so it gives you like a nice overview where people travel from this station.
Oh.
And and then down below you can see, takes a little bit of time to scroll, but you can see a development by weekday, so it's a cycle plot, and you would see how over the different months the different weekdays develop as well. So you see that Thursday is the strongest weekday, but actually over the summer it's decreasing over June and August. That's a little bit surprising because I would have thought it should be during winter. But yeah, for the station it's actually not the case.
This might be interesting so you're doing by months. Okay, you're doing weekdays and then months.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's a development
Did you look at
of
it the other way
weekdays.
as well? Did you look at it the other way as well?
No,
by weekday? It wouldn't look as good probably. Yeah. So this is another example where you could have done the jittering like we were saying.
Yeah, I actually tried doing it, but it didn't work. I guess it depends on the data source because it's a server connection. I know the function wouldn't work. So I actually thought about doing that, but in this one case it's impossible.
Yeah. Well, you can't use the random function. You could use like index or something like
that. The random function wouldn't work.
Yeah, I know that was it, but you could use index instead.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So that's about the London station in London.
Good. I think one other thing I might do is probably make the one that's red bigger, so it stands out a bit more.
Yeah, but it's a little bit counterintuitive, I thought, because since it's like the least bike rented, then it's like the biggest.
I just find it a bit hard to see.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. So I was thinking if you make it bigger everywhere, at least it's consistent.
Yeah.
It's bigger.
Or you could make the other dots like greyish, like not like
blue.
the background colour, but like a greyish colour, so it kind of just goes to the background a bit.
All right.
So what do you guys think about using a blue here and a blue here? Would you guys use the same color red? Because
Yeah.
red is what you're representing. So maybe this should be a red palette, and this should be a red line that matches that dot.
Yeah.
Just for consistency.
True.
Yeah, because then it makes sense.
Yeah, the
It's
blue
just this one
one. I mean,
station.
the red
True.
Just a small change, but
Yeah, just
and then make sure you include your data source at the bottom.
Yes.
It's hard to think about the formatting so constraint on time.
Yeah, like the formatting.
hit and
You weren't constrained by time. You had 4 hours. That's not constrained.
True.
That is true.
Just wait till dashboard.
Cool. That's
Okay, good job.
No, I don't
We're number 3, right? 4?
know.
4?
Oh, that's me.
Any takers for number 4? These small projects are fun because it kind of takes you out of the training. You know, it gives you a break from, especially if Lane's complaining about her brain hurting.
Yeah, now it's just my stress levels.
Different though, different.
Different thing.
It's emotional pain.
Right.
Okay, so I decided to create so it's like a navigation system, and then you can select the top 20 locations or the bottom 20 locations of where most people start their journey. This is where most people start their journey, and this is where most people end their journey. And it corresponds. So, for example, you click the bottom 20 and you decide that this is where you want to start your journey. It shows you where people will then end up.
Oh, we can see the loneliest station here then.
Yeah.
That should be the one on the bottom left.
So it's Clapham, right?
Yeah, it should be the green
Which
dot on the
one?
bottom left. Is it Grant Road?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But mine was only in 2017, so this one.
Right.
Might maybe
Probably still the lowest.
Well, no, this one is the lowest now.
Oh, okay.
2018.
Oh, you only did 1 year.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay,
2017,
okay, gotcha.
And then here shows you all the pins of where people just ended their location. And then in the bottom here, it shows you what the most popular time of day that people went by month, and then the time. So then you could see, oh, most people,
How come there's
Rented-
only 2 months showing?
oh, because this started in 2008, this place, where people started renting out their bikes.
2018.
Yeah, 2018.
It's only-
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
that's a new rental location.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why it's
So
at
like-
the bottom then.
Yeah, if I click North Kensington,
Oh, I see. I got
you see,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
it varies, and the most popular time is July.
Can you pick the top 20?
Top 20 location, yeah.
I just want to see what shows up. Can you pick one of the ones near Waterloo?
Yeah, there's Waterloo.
It's usually, they should have
It's
like a
mostly in
stripe
the
going right
morning.
across the yeah. That's where all the commuters get into the city.
Yeah, it's mostly between 7 a.m. and
Yeah.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
And then here is the average time by year that people spend riding their bike. And I think I should have excluded 2018 because it's only till March.
That's really interesting. I'm fascinated by the Waterloo because you would expect to see the same thing in the evening.
Yeah, and it's all
Right.
scattered. Everyone ends up riding it to different locations.
But it was definitely Dr. Stephanie Fry at one of the Tableau conferences who looked at the bike data originally, and I think Waterloo was one of the places where, because it's slightly uphill compared to the things around it, people will ride down and away from the station in the morning, but then to get back up, it's too much effort to ride a bike uphill. I'll just walk instead, or take the tube or whatever else.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, they probably take it in the morning because the Waterloo City line is the best in the mornings.
True.
Hell on earth.
So
It's not
yeah,
as bad in the evening because they run more trains.
this is what I.
Cool. Good stuff. So I guess so does your color on the bottom left change based on? So right now it looks like that's a South London location. So if you pick like a red one,
Yeah,
does that?
It will be
does
a
it
North
change
London
that?
location. No, should have got it to change.
So I would probably have the bottom left because I'm always associating it with South London if it's green. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then what do the numbers mean on
Oh, so that's average time, like duration of time that people spent riding their bike.
But only in December.
No, this is throughout. This is year, and this is throughout the months. Well, it's actually by
Right,
week.
but it's just the end of the line is labeled though. Isn't that just the value for December then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably just put a reference line on there for the whole year
Okay.
in each pane, because then you'd be able to see the fluctuations across the years a bit better. Because
Okay.
right now it's just showing the value for December.
Okay.
It's showing the average for December, but not the average for the year. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But I like the heat map. That's exactly how you'd probably expect it to look.
Yeah. Around rush
Summer
hour time.
evenings. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the pins? Would you just have circles, or do you like the pins, or?
Like
It's difficult to see.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
smaller.
Yeah, it's hard when
Yeah.
there's this many.
The thing is,
click
that
on it, yeah, exactly.
when it's like bottom location, it's so much more spread out and it looks more
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
It's just about like how crowded it ends up.
Yeah.
That was a problem.
Because it's so kind of recognizable.
From
Yeah.
Google Maps. Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I guess maybe
what
make
I
them more
wanted to go for.
transparent,
Okay.
so you can see through them when they're
Mhm.
all clustered. Like you've got that one cluster right in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell how many are there. So maybe if they were a bit transparent, you'd be able to see a little bit better.
Okay.
So my favourite question I always ask about those icons is the bottom of the pin the middle of the image, or is the middle of the image the middle of the pin?
Probably the middle.
I think it's the middle.
So you want it to be the bottom of the pin because the whole point
Yeah.
is the pin is stuff
Yeah,
that
you
you're
want
interested in.
That's
So-
let's have one.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Okay.
It's every single time somebody uses that image, a big smile comes across my face because I had so many stakeholder challenges with this, around going back and forth. No, it's the middle of the image, no, it's the bottom of the pin. No, it's the circle of the pin.
Because what I wanted to initially do, but it didn't work, I'd have to do Ultrix, was like have a Google Maps thing. So you selected where your start location is, and then you get all the lines to all the different end locations that you could do.
Google with its API or trying to do that through publishing the actual web searches is really painful to do that. So that's not a week 2 thing. We'll wait until like week 4 before we get to that.
I like your coloring of the boroughs, though. It gives a bit of or not boroughs, the areas in London. It gives good context for them. Yeah, that's good. Cool. Well done. Good job.
Thank you.
Looks like there's a comment on here too. I'm not sure if it's for you or. Okay, so Robin said he's written a blog post on the pins.
Yeah.
So, who's next? Who up? You're not. I don't see you in here either.
I was like, so
You might have to do like Niels. Just get out of it and get back in. Must have dropped out.
yeah, it's like disconnected. My internet's disconnected.
No, you have to.
Why don't we? While he's doing that, why don't whoever's next go? Lane. Okay. Lane, I don't see you in here either. So unless you're in here on somebody else's name.
No, I'm definitely connected.
Just
I'm connected on the co-work.
That shouldn't matter. But I don't see you in. Just rejoin the GoToMeeting.
I am on the
But I don't see you in the list. Niels had to get out and back in.
Should I allow my camera?
No.
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 Okay. Cool.
Did you just refresh the page?
Yeah, try that. Okay, there's Fuad, so we can let him present now. Yeah, just hit share. There you go. And hit that little hide button.
Okay, so mine was similar to Niels, except his one was the loneliest. Mine was more like the popular one. I think that reflects,
Well, he's lonely where he's living right now, so
So yeah, so what I focused on is the top 5, and as you can see, here's the stations are in the top 5, which is mostly around central London. So if you do click around these ones, it should show you exactly where they're located in London. So it's going. It's taking ages. Keeps disconnecting. So yeah, that's Hyde Park is central, King's Cross is central. They're all basically central. I would show you all of them, but it's gonna take a million years. I'll go back to Belgrove because this one's more interesting. There you go. So as Andy showed us this week, I've decided to use this type of chart, which basically isn't running some of the distance. King's Cross is by far the top. It's almost 720,000 miles.
wow,
Over those.
that's all the bikes that are out of there, right?
So over 6 years, that's quite a big difference. So that's just showing how like the magnitudes. And then what's interesting about this is that once I started to break it down by month and by day, what you'll notice is during the months, the summer periods are more popular, which would make sense because people tend to be out more and more happy to use bikes because the weather is usually nicer. And so for the most of them follow very similar trends, especially in the month period. But once you break it down by day, this is what's really interesting is if I click on Hyde Park here. So if you look at Hyde Park by day, so you can see the trend.
Each line a year now? Each line in these charts, is it a year or is it those 5 stations?
It's a 5 stations,
Okay,
so it's
gotcha.
a comparison of all the 5 stations.
Right.
So here, obviously, you can see the basic trend is, yeah, exactly, all of them go down, except for Hyde Park, which actually increases during the weekend. So I thought that was quite interesting because,
It's not that surprising, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, right. Most people is...
They do a lap around the park and then
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, just a bit of analysis at the end.
Has anybody ever done one of these?
No.
No. Have you done it? Do you just like tap your card on it?
Yeah, you basically have to create a mini account and just use your credit card to open up. Yeah, so that's not too bad.
But yeah, so you can just filter through by different stations.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Those 3 rows.
Cool. Do you guys like how these line charts work, or would you think maybe a heat map would be better? Although a heat map, you wouldn't be able to see all the stations, would you?
Yeah,
this compares to the station as well. Yeah. I like how you have the max highlighted as well, the max number on there.
I've included the little dot.
Just
Just
you.
because we did it.
We'll talk about aspect ratio charts, but for this it feels very like stretched upwards.
I was struggling to understand how to scale it. I didn't know whether to do 2 separate dashboards or...
No, I don't think it needs to be 2 separate dashboards, but those line charts feel very tall.
Right.
So you have them maybe given certainly on the months because you've got 12 data points compared to the 7 before. It's, when we talk about visual analytics, we'll talk about this a bit more.
Yeah. Typically, they're 3 wide by 2 high is the ratio for a line chart.
But yeah.
Cool, good. I like your use of a lot of the techniques we learned this week.
Yeah, that's
So,
why I was trying to practice.
it's always good to kiss the coach's ass during the
Oh, I have to say yes to that now, don't I? I was about to say, don't do that. Oh no, I'm going to do one. Okay, yeah.
So what I think would have been interesting, you get, so can you scroll up to the top line chart? I'm not quite sure the running total of distance. I understand what you're trying to get at. I'm wondering if there's something else. I'm trying to think if there's a better metric to use there then.
I would have thought average distance made more sense.
Just the average distance over time.
Yeah.
I think median distance. So when we talk about averages, because you've got so many short journeys, I actually want to know what some of the different averages are.
But you wouldn't do a running median, would you?
No.
That probably wouldn't make sense.
No, because that's only if you fundamentally think you're changing distance over time, but you probably wouldn't on a higher bike because you're going from A to B and there has to be a bike path at the end of it to slot into dock.
I'm really wanting to turn this into a Pareto because we learned it.
What about a moving
But I'm not quite
average?
sure how that would, what our x-axis would be. You can't really use time for Pareto. That would make sense. Anyway, it's okay. Maybe you could put the number of bikes on there instead. How many bikes make up 80% of the trip? That'd be dumb too. So you put the. I guess one thing you could do there is maybe just have big numbers.
Yeah, that's my next bit of things.
Because the train itself doesn't really, because really what matters is the endpoint, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So maybe just big numbers that say for those 5 stations, you have a big number for the total number of miles for each station and have like a little grid or something.
Because the 720,000 kind of gets lost, and it's such an amazing number that even TfL shouted about that, but just even one of their bike stations has hosted travel distance of 720,000. Is it miles or kilometers?
Miles.
Then it's that's.
What's the circumference of the Earth in miles?
Yeah, exactly. How many times? Make it again, kind of like the data. Make it relatable. How far it is, and how many times across London would that be? There's so much that you could play to the emotions of that. It's almost that call to action of everybody else doing. Why not you or?
How many times is that swimming the English Channel? Right, but actually, does anybody know off the top of their head how many miles it is around the Earth? Okay. Far? Yeah.
What if you did the moving average? Wouldn't that get rid of any schooners that you said of short distances and then?
The moving average is going to stay pretty stagnant over time because again, you wouldn't fundamentally probably change the distance length that you're doing. Yeah. I like the idea of the running total. Over time, you've ultimately taken cars or other transport off the roads for 720,000 miles. As you play it back into what AD did with that call to action of, have that, what's the impact?
Or even, so relating that to the 80s then, if you know the pollution per trip or something like that, like how much carbon are they emitting for each of those trips, you could then multiply that by the, 2 kilometers per trip or something. Yeah. Yeah, convert it all to miles or whatever, and then figure out how much carbon has been removed from London because of that or something.
I think
there's a long,
there's so much more like that.
Well, we can do that on Monday.
Exactly.
My
focus is more like practicing what we learned this year. So I was trying to use all the tools.
Yes.
But I would say what you also learned this week was how to make data and information relatable to anybody. That's the major thing behind Caroline's session. Yes. There's not many of those infographic-esque elements that are coming through, and we don't want you to lose that. So don't just see Tableau as a technical tool. See it as a communication technology.
Out of curiosity, how many of you drew things today from like what Caroline? Yeah. Okay. So Fuad, you didn't, Alex? No. Any particular reason why you didn't?
And I'm not trying to do what I did. I should have learned friends.
But I think the point of the class is that it actually speeds you up in the long run. Yeah. So I still don't see you in here.
I think, hang on, I'm definitely will.
Okay. No comments.
Okay, can you see me now? Share your webcam.
Share your workout. Webcam.
Well, if
Okay, why don't we go to the next person? We'll figure out how to get you back in this list.
this is Fuad is not. Oh, here, I'm.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I see you now. Yep.
Do I need to?
Share your screen.
Okay, so this is my dashboard, and it basically I wanted to do a Sankey diagram at first to show like the start and the end, but that just took far too long. So I abandoned that idea, and I thought, okay, what did I want to know from the Sankey chart? And I think I essentially wanted to know like which were the routes that were taken the most. And so when I figured that out, like I realized that a lot of like you can choose the top whatever routes from I think from 5 to 30. What I figured is that a lot of them started and ended in the same place, but when I took the percentage of the number of routes that started and ended in the same place out of all the routes, it actually only ended up to be 3.6%, even though like in the top 10 routes or top 20 routes, a lot of them showed up as being in the same start and end station. So that's quite interesting. I wanted to link this heat map with this so that when you clicked on like in the summer during the weekends, whether like how that affected the top cycle routes and which ones. But yeah, if I had more time, then I'd probably do that. But yeah, it's essentially just looking at the start and end routes, which is great.
So does the heat map then, is that only representing ones that start and end at the same route?
No, that's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I would have liked to. So I would have liked to, if you clicked on this, then seen like how much were in the start, like it had the same start and end date and place. Sorry.
I think I'd find it less confusing because you've got that big number and it talks about start and end in the same place.
Then maybe this.
I assumed everything was about start and end in the same place.
Yeah.
So, and I assume you just said start name equals end name or something, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you guys think of that? Would it be less confusing, do you think, or?
I think the thing you're missing here is almost the clear title. So what's the purpose of the dashboard? So to Andy's point, is it about people who start and finish in the same location, or are people more adventurous? Do they start somewhere and then go off somewhere else?
Yeah, I think because I assume that normally people would take a bike from one place to another place, but the fact that like when I looked at the routes, like the top 20 or whatever, like it actually showed that a lot of them were in the same area and ended in the same area.
Yep.
So I think that was the kind of message that I wanted to put through. But yeah.
So I think
so. It just needs to be a bit more clear than I think, especially with the heat map.
So this one, okay. Let's go with the. Okay.
So I really like the analysis. I like what you found within the data. I think it's then you just got to play that back into the design into that a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hard things to do. And I think we kind of spoke about it again with Caroline, that you start this iterative process and sometimes you kind of get caught on the way of, like, I've found the thing, let's go and build this out.
Yeah.
But you don't kind of wind back if someone's looking at this for the first time, they haven't seen the journey that you've gone through to get that. So if they're diving in
how do you think, like,
so for me it comes down to timing. It is are people adventurous with Boris bikes? Or adventurers with Boris bikes?
Okay.
And actually, you can do a subtitle of, no, actually, the top routes they're really boring, they take it back to the same place they started.
Okay, yeah.
And then it kind of, you can have some fun with that.
Okay.
So the percentages that are on the bars, I like how you put them on just the dark blue ones. I probably make them just one decimal place.
Okay. But
does that 7.5% in the top represent 7.5% of the top 20 or of the overall?
Of all the routes that have a start and end date in the same place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So out of all of the ones that start and end in the same place,
that particular location is 7.5%. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So if we saw all of the dark blue bars, they would add up to 100%. Okay.
That's definitely the type of thing to put into a tooltip, because you might not. Yes, if you can get into the dashboard nicely, great. Sometimes you can't. That's where I often use the tooltip to help explain out why certain ones are labelled and certain ones aren't.
Okay.
It's those kind of things. But again, it's week 2. It's really early on. Again, love what you found within this. It's just some of those
early doors,
extra little bits which will. Yes, those extra little bits that really, that's what you come out the back of this thing with.
Yeah.
Because you guys can all build a type of dashboard. That's how you got in here.
Yeah.
We're now kind of working on these kind of nuances of, as you go through these processes of working with new data sets, how that works through. It's kind of some of these little subtle things that actually make a massive difference to your overall product.
Okay. So it's just the communication bit that needs
Yeah, a
to
little
be.
bit. Yeah.
It's the text communication.
The text, the
Yeah.
titles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the charts are clear.
Yeah.
I think it's
Just
just
the title.
explaining a bit more. what it
Okay,
is.
like framing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's that thing that I missed on Wednesday. It's the thing that I never used to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's actually, I underpay
Crucial.
the value of it so much. Please don't. So we'll keep
Okay.
working on that and chipping away at it.
Cool. Thank you.
Good job. What's next? We expect this to be visit of the week quality, right? Expectation's been set.
Well, it's up to visit the month now, isn't it?
Sometimes
It doesn't exist yet.
Ben Davis got visited one time and they kept forgetting to change it, so he was on there for like a month and a half.
Okay, so what I did, I mapped everything out because I wanted to see from which stations people would rent bikes the most. So the more yellow it is, the more unpopular. So we're on Neil's side. And the darker is the more popular. And I think we've had the
For us
result
side.
before. Yeah, for us
This
side.
side of the table.
So I think we had the result before, like these are the top commuter locations. So we've got King's Cross here, then we've got Kensington Gardens. I'm not sure if that's a commuter location. Let me deselect this. So, and then I looked at the time when people would actually rent the bikes. So if I go down, so this is weekdays, and then the time of the day. So with these two peaks, you can see it's the commuting time. So it starts around 7, lasts until 9, and then people will go here from 5 p.m. Weekends very
It's
different.
almost the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Like people get up around 11,
Lunchtime.
just go somewhere. Yeah. So what I didn't do, like I don't know if it's in winter and summer, but in general, like this is all over 2017.
Yeah.
And then what I also checked is how long would people ride their bikes. And what I found quite remarkable is they take a lot longer between 1 and 3 a.m. So maybe just like throughout the week, people would be drunk and just take their time, I assume. Yeah, and then the idea is if you click on separate, let's check this one because this is where we are, Cheapside Bank. So people don't actually take any bikes in the morning. So here, well, this is okay, that's a bit early, but even here, 7, 8 a.m.
Right.
There's barely a peak.
You know where that is, right? Cheapside Bank.
Well, that's
It's literally
down
the
there.
next street up.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's everybody riding back at night. So they all come.
Yeah,
from
and then
Waterloo in the
also
morning.
Friday, you can see Friday after the pub, everyone's cycling home. It's literally just that
65-minute
Friday.
journeys too. Wow.
However,
That
this
makes
is
complete sense because nobody lives here.
yeah, exactly, and that's
Yeah.
why like on the weekend, like I mean, again, it's a bit,
nothing,
but like it's empty. Like if you've ever been here on a weekend, it's dead. It's like even Pratt is closed.
Great time to meet tourists.
And then, however, like this one isn't too far away, but here you've got 2 peaks. So here people actually cycle in the morning as well. So, and these are not too far away from each other, I guess. Like I don't know how far, like if you zoom in, but still they're quite close.
I wonder if that's next to a tube station or something.
Could be a mansion house or something
Could be.
that people just arrive and go from mansion house.
That's-
But the other one is still at St. Paul's.
Right.
So they're both close.
That would
to
be really
stations.
interesting to see how that changes over time. So I don't know if you know what's happened with the roundabout or kind of the 6-way junction at Bank Station, around Bank Station.
Yeah, I
They've
removed.
now stopped all other traffic apart from bikes and buses.
Right. So maybe it's encouraged people to.
So I think that'll be interesting to see if that kind of thing changes over time. So that'd be super interesting to take that to watch out for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's an amazing
Because
finding.
that's an experiment they're doing on that.
Yeah, but I think they're sticking with it because they're seeing air pollution, noise pollution, and everything just through the
It's
floor.
really nice on that road now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the general idea. So what I initially did, I thought, okay, we were looking at like, I don't know, 1,000 stations. So I had a parameter in here, but I know using the parameter made everything crash. So you just have to look at all 1,000.
Might even need to do something like Soha's and maybe have a area of maybe create you did like a group or something, right? And then you can filter into an area of the city or something. Yeah. But she didn't bother sharing her group with anybody else. So.
She didn't. I didn't know.
I also don't know. Now I saw it.
That's good. I like that. So if you've got a highlighter at the top, right? Is that just
Yeah, that's a highlighter. If you're interested in any particular station, you're like.
Yeah, the really dark ones, we know those are Hyde Park.
Yeah.
We've seen that before. The one at the top was King's Cross. Once you just pick one, like maybe Canary Wharf area on the right. Yeah. In that little
island.
Yeah, the island. The island dogs.
Oh yeah.
So I would suspect those are all going to be evening commutes, right?
These are.
No, they're boring.
It's a bit weird
I
for
think
that far down the Isle of Dogs, because that far down the Isle of Dogs is actually more residential space.
Yeah, that's right.
So how
It's
about,
on the
I
weekend.
have another idea.
Oh,
So
yeah,
zoom
no,
into kind of where we are. I think if you just, I wonder if you can type in City of London.
It's a bit, yeah. That could be because it's a word. No, it's like it's actually a bit difficult.
Not for the highlight. No, in the map itself.
In the map itself.
So that little search icon there.
Okay, yeah. Never used that.
Just do City of London. Okay, no, that doesn't work.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. So now right there. So just lasso some of those points because I'm curious to see kind of like the ones that are near us. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's mostly in the evening.
Interesting. It's
This
not very
random
surprising.
spike on Wednesday.
Yeah, except for that one.
Worth the leaving line.
It's Wednesday, 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. on Wednesdays. It's really strange. Maybe
Maybe there's like a whole group of them.
that's
just
how
go on
long they
Wednesdays.
last. It's the average length of time.
Yeah.
How the heck is that possible just on a Wednesday in the middle of the night?
Maybe
Crazy.
something happened.
It's across the whole year.
Yeah, but maybe something happened and like it skewed.
Or if you don't redock the line correctly, and then you have to wait for people coming around to redistribute those bikes in the morning and stuff.
Yeah.
So the other thing is your source isn't actually Exasol, it's TFL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Change that.
Cool. Good stuff.
Who's next?
What number were you?
I think you're the only one that has it.
Are you 7?
Yeah.
Oh,
It has to be you. You're the only one left.
Yeah.
Weren't you 8 last week as well?
Yeah.
You're very consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one next.
Oh, this is so shit.
Alexander.
Right. So, I was more interested in the business side of the London Bikes and its profitability if it has not been a success. So we start off, as many people here have got, we've just got what's the most used dogs. But what I've got over here is the average duration in seconds over the entire period, and to see whether or not it's been increasing. It sort of did for a little while in the middle, but it's also dual encoded, and the distance is darker. It's actually the distance getting longer in the later years. Actually, the amount of time.
Because we're riding faster.
Riding faster. Yeah.
I wonder if the type of bike changed where
So
the bikes just go faster.
I'm not entirely certain why that happened. It has.
That's interesting.
If I had time, I was going to try and create calculations to figure out exactly how much revenue they pulled in over a period of time. Whereas you can quite easily figure that out by how much the standing cost is, and then how much they charge you if you go over 30 minutes. It's an extra £2 for every 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes is free. I was also curious to see, because as we see the usage has gone up, but I wondered whether or not that was month on month, and whether so this is just averaged by per use, but we don't know the number of uses per month. And so I created this, and this took me most of the day. Start off nice and slow just to start off with, and I can make it faster. As the line progresses, that's every single month, as you can see here in the title. It's not a perfect circle because I had to make it into a dashboard and squished it a little bit. And I'll start speeding this up because you get the idea, and you get a spiral. And as you notice, as the years go on, the spiral starts getting wider and wider, meaning it's more and more popular the later you go on.
So the distance that's farther out.
So the further away it is from the centre, the more it's being used as a system across London.
Right.
And as I said, so you can sort of see that the further out it goes, as we go through the years from when it began to now, it's become more and more popular. And I also did a predictive in there as well, looking to 2019 and see how it continues. But recently it's started to slow down a little bit, so it's actually landed itself pretty much right in the middle of the thing.
Can I click on a station at the bottom and does the spiral update? So you can click on
it shouldn't do because this is all stations. This is everything. This is all the bike usage.
Filter to do that.
No, so this is the bike usage across London.
Okay. But it might be interesting to be able to click on one of those and see if they follow the same pattern.
Yes. Time and forethought, then yes, I would say.
Well, if you just hit escape on your go out of presentation mode and hover over that start journey sheet. So you're already on that start journey sheet. Hit that little filter icon.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, you mean
on the dashboard. Just hit that, and now click on the first one. You can leave that. Just leave it. And then that should update everything to that.
Updated that one. Did it update this?
It updated both of them, yeah.
Okay. So then, for example, let's just scroll this back and play it and have a look.
So this will be just for that station now.
It looks like it's staying pretty consistent and just starting to become a little bit more popular towards the end there.
You can add a bit of interactivity there.
I didn't think about that, so yeah.
That's okay.
That's my dashboard. It took me far longer than expected.
So I think there's a couple things you could do different.
A lot of things I can do different.
I don't think on the bottom left bar chart, I don't think you need to double encode it with color.
The left one, or this one?
The left one, yeah. I would show your axis though, because we don't know what the height of the bar really means.
Sorry, yes.
It just says start journey.
Yeah, apologies.
So I've tried to show the axis on there. And then I would make it a horizontal bar chart so we don't have to turn our head to read the labels. And since you're using blue in the bottom, I would use blue lines at the top, or vice versa, or use red at the bottom.
Yeah, I started to use blue in here and use a similar sort of pattern, but it kind of got lost. The lines started getting a bit lost.
Maybe you should use red at the bottom then, just so it's consistent with that. I know we haven't covered these yet, but I'm wondering if there's a chart type you could do called a connected scatter plot. So the interesting thing you found in the bottom right chart was that distance was increasing.
Distance is dropping, but time is...
No, time's dropping.
Sorry, apologize.
Time's dropping. Is that average distance?
And that's average distance.
Yeah, so a connected scatter plot, you basically have duration on the y-axis like you have it. You have distance on the x-axis, and then you put year in the view, and you connect them with the line, and it kind of shows the pattern of how it's moving in a scatter plot. But we can cover that another time. But it might not look good at all, but it's something to explore when you have that when you're adding an extra measure in there for encoding. So it's something to at least explore and see if it shows the relationship a bit better.
The one thing I really wanted to be able to do next was essentially to calculate the revenue and put that out as well.
Right.
To see I think how much successful or not it's been.
So I think one of the things hopefully you learned today was that you were overcomplicating what you were trying to do. You were given the data. There's no cost data, so by the time you get that, you're going to make it way too complicated. Yeah. You're going to run out of time. And then also the planning piece ahead of time. So you jump straight into the data.
I spent too long doing something that didn't work.
Yeah. And part of that's because you didn't plan it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think with the radial chart, I have the same when I built my connected scans plot. When I first shared it with people, do they really get it? And I went back and I revised the text time and time again until people were looking at it. So a guy called Robert Caceres, the researcher for Tableau in the US, he was the first person I saw kind of use Tableau with connected scans plots. So I tweeted it to him, and he kind of fed back so many times. It's that thing of flipping the chart around and just showing somebody who hasn't seen, gone through the process of what you've gone through.
Right.
Do they look at it and get exactly what it means first time around?
Sure.
And the fact that it's not blindingly obvious, you've changed, the colour tweaks as you go through it. There's a few things within there of actually, if you simplify something, it works out that
less more. Yeah, absolutely. I did come to that realization a bit too late. I sort of, when I had my hands on this data, alarm bell started going off in my head saying, I can do this and I can do this. Yeah. It turns out that was the wrong, very much the wrong way to approach it.
But that's also, so going back to Andy's point, that's also part of the sketching and the planning.
Yeah.
When, you're only going to be a few weeks away before you sketch some ideas and you know what it's going to take to build that in template or not build that in template. Just quickly also on the page shelf, you can actually have transparency kick in after a certain number of moments, so it gets more and more transparent the older it is. So that way, the most current path would actually be the boldest. Okay. And I think that's that kind of thing where it starts to help to simplify the message out. Right. So there's a number of techniques we haven't done, but that would actually really help the readability of this.
Okay. So I'll show real quick the connected scatter plot idea since your Viz is up here. So it's easier to do here than it is.
I did mention the New York Times one earlier this week, Andy, for the miles driven and road deaths.
So what you would do is you would take your. So that's okay. We'll change that. So we want to do the average distance here.
Yeah.
You guys watching? And then we're going to take the year and we're going to put that on detail for now, change it to a line chart, and then put year on the path. And then what I like to do here is just zoom these axes in. So untick the include 0 on both of them. And it kind of zooms it in. Now this doesn't show a lot of patterns, so I might want to look at it maybe on a quarterly basis instead. And again, it's not particularly helpful. So sometimes you'll see a really interesting pattern in the data as you go across. So in this case, it doesn't help us.
No, yeah.
So yeah, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how you do it. Connected
change that onto connected scaffold.
Yeah. Sure. So usually you label the start and the end of the line with like the year or whatever you have in there. But in this case, it doesn't really tell us anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You guys the example of the miles driven one from the New York Times.
All right. Good job, Alex. Everybody? All right. Good job, guys. Thank you for joining on the phone. For leaving. Goodbye.